Welcome back. All right, so yes, Montreal Garb for a second time today. And we're going to talk about Bob Gainey. So, career video time. And I wanted to talk about a Hall of Famer and really a big part of a dynasty in the late 70s, mid-late 70s. It doesn't get talked about a lot. We talk a lot about the Islanders dynasty, and of course, that being in focus today with the passing of Mike Bossy. We talk a lot about the Oilers dynasty that followed that. But Montreal's dynasty in the mid-late 70s was pretty darn impressive, and Bob Gainey was a big part of that. Bob Gainey, left winger, which is key because he is one of the best defensive forwards in the game's history. Won a bunch of Selkes as a winger, and it's an award now that almost entirely goes to centers. So 73-74, he makes his debut in the NHL. 66 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. Montreal does not rush players. Montreal, and you'll notice this with almost any Montreal player, unless your name was Guy Lafleur, and even then, you're not going to be first line right away. But Gainey was, given some time. In the playoffs, he played 6 games, no points. He didn't miss the playoffs the entire time he played in the NHL. 74-75, 80 games played, 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points. Bob Gainey was never a guy who scored a ton of points. He wouldn't wow you with all of his goal scoring. He was the shutdown forward, though. 11 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in the playoffs. 75-76, he gets his first taste of the Stanley Cup. 78 games, 15 goals, 13 assists, 28 points. In the playoffs, 13 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. And again, with Gainey, and this might be part of the reason why I haven't done a Gainey video. He doesn't have a career where we're talking about records and points and goals and how fantastic he was offensively. But defensively, he was pretty darn good. So 76-77, 80 games played, 14 goals, 19 assists, 33 points. And in the playoffs, 14 games, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points. Played in the All-Star game that year. Plays in the All-Star game, wins the Stanley Cup. So 14 goals in 80 games, he was in the All-Star game. I often see complaints about who is or isn't in the All-Star game. If a forward at the All-Star break had like 8 goals and was put in the All-Star game, I think right now you'd see the internet melt down over it. But there's no complaints with Gainey because he's just fantastic defensively. 77-78. So as we're seeing scoring going up in the NHL, Gainey's numbers really don't change that much. 66 games, 15 goals, 16 assists, 31 points. So he did miss 14 games that year in the playoffs. 15 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. This is the first year that the Selke Award is awarded, and it's to Gainey. And it was kind of his award. He also went to the All-Star game that year, and he won the Stanley Cup. So he's in All-Star games back-to-back years, despite the fact he's not even a 20-goal scorer. But again, it's that defense. 78-79, 79 games, 20 goals, 18 assists, 38 points. This is the first of 4 20-goal seasons in his career. 16 games in the playoffs, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. He wins the Selke. He also won the Conn Smythe. That 16 points in 16 games is remarkable for Gainey. And so he's the Conn Smythe winner and, of course, also won the Stanley Cup. So that was 4 Stanley Cups in a row for Montreal and for Bob Gainey. They kind of had some swagger to them when I started watching hockey. 79-80, 64 games played by Gainey, 14 goals, 19 assists, 33 points. In the playoffs, 10 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. He wins the Selke again. That's 3 years in a row. And he's in the All-Star game yet again. So that's his 3rd All-Star game appearance. And again, he's not a 20-goal scorer. I just find it remarkable because we're now into the era where offense is what everybody's paying attention to, and Gainey's still attracting a lot of attention for the defensive side of things. 80-81. So this is the first year that I watched hockey a little more regularly, was 80-81. 79-80, I watched games a little bit here and there, but I was very young. Not like I wasn't young in 80-81 either, but still. 78 games, 23 goals, 24 assists, 47 points. That'd be a career high in points. That'd be a career high in goals. But in the playoffs, 3 games played, no points. That was the year that they get upset by the upstart Edmonton Oilers. That's where the Oilers started to really make some noise. But he did play in the All-Star game yet again. He did win the Selke Award for the 4th and final time in his career that he would win it. 81-82. 79 games, 21 goals, 24 assists, 45 points. And in the playoffs, 5 games and 1 assist. He did not win the Selke. He was second that year. I believe it's Bobby Clark. That is the first player not named Bob Gainey who gets his name on the trophy. So he was second, Still one of the best defensive forwards in the game, 82-83. Plays 80 games, down to 12 goals, 18 assists, 30 points. And in the playoffs, just the 3 games played as now, we're into an era where Montreal struggles in the playoffs. He was 6th in Selkes voting that year. 83-84, 77 games, 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points. In the playoffs, 15 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. He was still top 10 in Selke voting. He is still one of the better defensive forwards in the game, but he started to be overshadowed by others. I had thought about maybe doing a Craig Ramsay video because Craig Ramsay won the Selke himself, and he was a pretty good defensive forward. Maybe at some other point I will do that. And then 84-85, plays 79 games, gets to 19 goals, so close to 20, 13 assists, 32 points. In the playoffs, 12 games played, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. We're into the era where they're always playing Boston in the playoffs, too. 85-86, 80 games, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points. And in the playoffs, he plays 20 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. Very respectable totals in the playoffs. He was 6th in Selke voting. He gets his 5th Stanley Cup. 5 Stanley Cups. Bob Gainey was a winner. 86-87, he only plays 47 games that year, 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. But in the playoffs, 17 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. So Montreal went on a nice run in 87 that ended in violence against the Philadelphia Flyers. 87-88, 78 games played, 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 points. In the playoffs, just the 6 games played and 1 assist, because again, they're playing Boston every year. 88-89, this is his swan song. Just the 49 games in the regular season, 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points. His output was never stellar, but his output also never really fell off the map either. We see veteran players when I do these videos where the offense just completely dries up. With him, it really didn't. I mean, it wasn't in the 40-point range anymore, but 17 points in 49 games for a purely defensive, mostly purely defensive forward isn't bad. 16 games in the playoffs, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. They get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they lost against the Calgary Flames. And after that Stanley Cup Final was done, Bob Gainey announced his retirement. So he goes out playing in his 6th Stanley Cup Final and the first Stanley Cup Final that Montreal had lost with him in the lineup. He ends up with 1,160 games played, 239 goals, 262 assists for 501 points. In the playoffs, 182 games played, 25 goals, 48 assists, 73 points. Just remarkable. I mean, this is a guy who's seen as just, defensive forward. Still ends up with 500 points. 1976, he won gold at the Canada Cup. He was at the World Championships and won bronze in 1982 and 1983, representing Canada. Hall of Fame induction in 92. And February 23rd of 2008, Montreal retired the number 23. Put that up to the rafters. And the question I would have with that is, why did it take so long? 5 Stanley Cup rings, and honestly, nobody was going to wear 23 again, I wouldn't think, after Gainey. He was remarkable. So there was a point in time in my hockey fandom that I was a big fan of the Montreal Canadiens, and that was really in the early 80s when I really liked the players, and I was always a big fan of Bob Gainey. And my respect for defense, my respect for grinding forwards, my respect for guys that just keep going and keep plugging away, and my respect for players who don't get the attention starts with Bob Gainey. So while other people may, marvel at a guy like a McDavid, or back in the day a guy like Gretzky, marvel at these players with this amazing skill, the guys that I admired were the ones that shut them down. The ones that when they'd be on a big rush, be on a big break, they'd catch them, knock the puck off their stick. They'd knock them into the boards. They'd make sure they didn't get to the net. Those guys were always the ones that I paid close attention to, and would often end up being some of my favorite players. So, the oddness started there, where other people would be like, hey, everybody loves all these big star forwards and scoring forwards. And I'd be saying, I really like that shutdown forward, made sure that there weren't any goals last night. Because, yeah. Anyways, there you go. The career of Bob Gainey. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.